In this episode, we talk about why you might be severely undertelling your story and how that's impacting the next generation.
Plus, we're going to try something new and wrestle with some leadership pet peeves.
Well, welcome back to Season 4 of the Purpose Pro podcast. Our mission and passion is to help connect you to your unique design and purpose. If you love learning simple and effective ways to lead yourself and others well, this podcast is for you. And man, it's good to be back.
Look at that.
Welcome back, Zach.
4 seasons, we finally mastered the intro.
Yeah,
you didn't
sort
even
of.
need your paper.
I didn't, but I have it here as comfort just in case I blank.
You can teach old dogs new tricks.
Man, I just did what you did. I got to learn to talk into the mic this season as I move my head.
You got to work the middle. It's like at the dinner table. It's one of the most important
Okay.
positions. You got to balance between Clint and I.
Okay.
Really balance the conversation.
Okay.
I thought you were getting your wives on to teach you how to do this. Didn't I hear that somewhere?
Oh man.
They're not allowed on here.
No. We had my wife on last season.
Yep.
And I
Ted
think,
Lasso episode.
yeah, she talked about Ted Lasso and leadership and management and like.
Still got to get into that. It's been recommended.
You have not
I have
seen
not
Ted
seen it.
Lasso?
If you
Should I
have
leave
not,
now?
Okay.
Yeah. Pause this podcast. Go watch Ted Lasso. We'll get back.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you do not know anything about Clint at this point, but you have heard his accent. So my question for you, Clint, is: have you seen Yellowstone?
Oh man, is there a particular reason why with this accent I should have seen Yellowstone?
No.
Is there like what's the tie? in here?
No. It is.
I'm
I would
about to
say
lose my Texas card or something.
Yeah, totally, man. You're
Not
yeah.
from around these
Yeah.
parts.
I've
Yeah.
watched half an episode and then I
Okay.
realized this is a big commitment. I need more time, so
Okay,
I put it on ice.
It's like a
Yeah.
Texan soap opera.
sort of, except
I
not filmed in
thought
Texas.
that was HEB.
Oh, yeah. Well, proper introduction here.
Yes.
Clint Davis, entrepreneur of many things. You got a great story. I know we're going to get into some of it. Passion for storytelling, preserving the past, and your new founder and CEO of the Capsll app, which we're definitely going to dive into. And just the passion and energy you have around making sure that our stories are told and told well, I think is refreshing and is not something that's out there very well. And so I'm excited to dive into that. Excited to dive into what you're about, and really at the core of it, passing on legacies is a big piece of this, right? I know my mother's 82 years old, and I'm thinking, man, there's so many cool memories over her lifetime that are missed. That should have been captured but weren't. But even so, like, man, thank you for being here and jumping into this.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. You guys are doing a great job. I love what you guys are doing. It's so awesome, and I love your heart for generations as too. And thanks to all the listeners and watchers. Those viewers, just hearing what I have to say today. It's something that I used to take for granted, and I don't anymore. So I appreciate everybody tuning in and listening.
Yeah. So if we can just jump in. Tell us about how you got into this, the power of storytelling. Why is this a thing? What's the need out there that you're seeing that we're missing? Because when I heard this described, it was like, oh, this is one of those things that I need that I didn't know I needed. But now that I know it's there,
funny? Yeah.
I know I need it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So talk to us about this for a little bit.
Yeah, so strange that this hasn't been done before.
Right.
Really. I mean, we live in a digital age, and yet all the ages that have come before us are the ones that used to save history. Shoeboxes, biographies, things like that, And I guess it starts where I've lived quite a eclectic kind of life. I mean, born in South Africa, not the Yellowstone South Africa actually.
Okay, different. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you
that's
for
the
thank you for
just-
clarifying. Okay,
No,
cool.
we'll pull up a map just now.
Okay, yeah,
good.
yep.
Good. But that in itself was such a journey. Growing up under apartheid, seeing that change, see a country fight for democracy, and how that turned out. There's a whole conversation on its own. But I ended up in radio broadcasting to 3.5 million listeners there. Just on a whim, woke up one morning, decided, I remember somebody said you could go into radio if you didn't go into ministry, and just decided to do it and did it. And I guess storytelling really just came from that. You know, you have to learn to connect with people over airwaves. You have to learn to shape things a certain way. But carry on years and years and years later, and I've had all these experiences of everything that comes with radio and celebrityism or celebrityism, right? And you have to check my South African language, you know.
No, that's cool.
And
That probably wasn't a word, but we'll fact check it later, man.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah. You got to fact check me, man. You absolutely have to fact check me.
Go.
But you know, I found myself in a place where now that we're settled and Austin is home, and my wife and I became American citizens a month ago.
Nice.
Thank you very much. Yes, it is a congratulations thing. We're, you know, stoked about it. And I realized that my kids one day would know a version of me that I am now, but wouldn't know how we got here. They wouldn't know the struggles. They wouldn't know the triumphs. They wouldn't know the different versions of ourselves and all the things that make us who we are. And that's really what we want to pass on. So how do you pass on character? How do you pass on integrity? How do you pass those things on, you know? And adversely, I thought about my grandfather, who was an orphan and became a high-powered CEO. And I'd love to hear his stories now that I'm old enough to appreciate those, you know. And then I was struck just by how much of our history we're losing. And I set out to create a private podcast for that and realized I wanted to put pictures and video in as well and couldn't. And it was just frustrating. It's a real pain point, you know. And that led us to really standing in front of the kitchen sink one night, washing dishes at 9:30, and really feeling God just download this idea. And it kind of stemmed from there. You know, there's amazing stories to this about how this has all come together and how divine it actually is. And I always put this disclaimer on, not that it needs to be a disclaimer, but we are a human product. We're not a Christian product. We're not a political product. We believe quite strongly in staying in the middle of that. When it comes to faith in particular, you don't have to believe what I believe, but I think it's healthy to be on a journey for your wholeness. And so whatever journey you're on, that's fine. We're a human app and telling human stories and giving people a place to do that.
I know what Zach's thinking, and that is, well, I'm going to go work for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you like to do, Zach?
No, that's awesome.
You know we're a startup, so it'll be free for now, of course.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you committed
yeah.
early. It's good.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, we'll give you steak.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Yes.
How many kids do you have?
None.
Oh.
Yeah. So you know, it's amazing. That's so close to our hearts because with all the traveling and, you know, my wife's a dancer, choreographer, and with me being in radio, and it's been difficult to settle and pull that trigger. And quite honestly, when we lived in Dubai, we lived there for 6 years, and we started having this conversation and just didn't feel the peace about it. It's an interesting thing about life when other people put pressure on you to make the same decisions and patterns that they have done, and you kind of have to either you fall in line with that, or you really assess in that moment and figure out if that's the right timing for you and that's the desire of your heart. It's a very interesting conversation, that, but we really felt on our hearts to adopt. And so we've been carrying that for over 10 years. And so we are just, now that we're citizens, able to pull the trigger on that. So yeah, anybody out there involved with adoption agencies, domestic, we're looking for a Thai girl. That's what we really feel. So please contact me, help me.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
And interesting. So I have my little 2-year-old, and it took a moment like that to really jar me out of, I guess, my just comfortable way of doing things, and start wrestling with that idea of like legacy and, you know, passing on my history. What do I want to pass on? What character do I want to pass on? And I think a lot of times it takes a moment to kind of jar us out of normal and start thinking about those bigger things. And so for you, was it like a moment that set you on this path to really be intentional about telling stories, or was it something kind of like a splinter that just kind of developed over time, and then eventually at the kitchen sink you were like, I'm doing this thing?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, most of our journey has been radical moves, and on zero budget. You know, when we tell people that we left South Africa in 2008, moved to Dubai, lived in Dubai for 6, people are like, they light up. They're like, what was Dubai like?
Yeah.
You know, and then we moved to Australia after that, and then won the green card lottery at a 0.73% chance to enter the United States. All of these stories have massive weight behind them of how that happened and how we really felt God was involved in that and how it was motivated towards that. But I think the moment is tied to age partly. You feel like you're old enough that you have stuff that you want to share with the world. You really figured out who you are. You have your identity. And you start thinking about what you're going to pass on and what you're going to leave. So I think that's really key. But it wasn't something that was bugging me until within that probably 2-hour period that I went out, tried this pain point, walked downstairs, got this download. I can honestly say and I don't share this in every public forum because, like I said, we don't want to be seen as a Christian app, right? Mm-hmm. But I also can't deny my journey and the role that faith has played in that. Mm-hmm. And, it's like if you had a powerful business mentor bring you along and you were successful, you would give honor to that, right? And so I give honor to the higher power that I know, and that I know I couldn't have made these decisions without. And so that download in that moment of this app, which we are probably 85% plus still true to, the rest is like stuff we didn't know, is the how do I say this? It's the third time that I've heard God that clearly in my life. Mm-hmm. One was the 0.73% chance of coming to the States that we carried for 20 years. So that was pretty clear and confirmed after 20-year journey. Yeah. And so, it was very clear. I knew that voice, and so it was a moment. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then another interesting thing that you said was, as you were talking about like sharing your story, you talked to like the trials and the challenges. And so for some people, I think they look at like the trials and the challenges and they almost discredit themselves from the value of their story, right? I don't have a story to tell. I've been through, so I can't.
Ooh, I'll make you take that back.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's also what gives their story power. Like you've been through that and survived. You're still here. We're still talking. So what would you say to somebody who doesn't feel like their story has any value?
Yeah, it feels like we're always comparing our story to someone else's. Someone else always has a better story. So then it's like, well, my story is not like their story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't comparison a killer?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Take it across anything, and it's a killer. I mean, even when it comes to investors, we've had one or two investors that have gone, yeah, but Apple could just create this. Like, yeah, well, they're not.
Right.
They haven't. And when they do, they'll be behind us. It's more likely scenario that they want to speak to us and, partner, whatever. But if I didn't create it because I consider comparison or competition, what would we have in the world today, right? Mm-hmm. Yet we don't do that with our personal stories. Now, it hasn't always been like that in history, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we had tribes telling stories. Look at Israel, right? Just passing on story after story after story. Where did we lose it? Mm-hmm. It is exactly what you've mentioned, in that we lost this understanding that every person is valuable, every story is valuable, and it should be saved. Mm-hmm. Think about how we're saving history at the moment. Are we? Mm-hmm. Are we having history dictated to us? Will future generations have a history dictated to them? What if history was in our hands again to share? And what if that history wasn't tied to only major world events? What if it was tied to the little lessons you've learned, the insights, the memories, the stories, some that you've forgotten and you would only remember again if you sat across a table from a friend that you had school with and went, wow, I would never have remembered that if we didn't sit down and talk.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's the kind of engagement that happens on the app because of the neuroscience behind it. Mm-hmm. But the truth of the matter is, every person has a story, every life is valuable, and that's why we are an intently human company, because that's what we really live, that's what we believe, and we want to give people a space to put that value for now, or privately to keep to themselves, or to pass on to generations.
Mm-hmm. Man, that's huge. When you were talking earlier about like the power of the individual story, like of my story, and you're talking about winning the lottery, coming from Australia to the States, right? I think about Gary Vee and just the chance. He talks a little bit about like the chance that you're even here, that you're even alive. And I wrote it down. It was 1 in 10 to the 2,685,000, like next to zero, right? So your story has value. And I feel like it takes people like you really challenging us, or these big events, to awaken us to the fact that I have value. My story has value. And then I'm a part of a bigger story. I look around the room right now and there's all these people, filming or taking pictures or whatever. And I become aware of the value in them because of the value of their story. And there's this connectedness and unity that comes with it. It's cool.
Yeah, 100%, man. You can't compare your story to others. Like, you just can't. Like, yours is yours, right? Your journey is your journey. But there are those moments that make you recognize the value of life. And I've got two, but the truth is, like, I was a radio host to over 5 million listeners in 4 different countries. And it was always about me, right? And as much as I would like to say it was about others, it really wasn't. You have to have a certain ego to have that role. And now I find myself in a place in life where I'm just a user of the app, really. I really built it for me, which is the way you're supposed to be an entrepreneur. You're supposed to build a pain point that is truly for you, and then hope that others see value in it too, And it's exploded in size as we've built it, but the truth is that it's never got to be about my story. It's got to be about your story and every individual's story, because that's where the value sits, not in just listening to one person.
Is there a part of this that teaches somebody how to even tell a story? We talked a little bit a few weeks ago about just kind of the state of the human condition. My heart really hurts for especially the younger generations, but the way we think we're capturing moments on social media, and we're capturing surfacey moments, right? Not a lot of things with depth. It's I try to explain to educators and adults all the time, put yourself in the world of the modern day 16-year-old who is spending more of their time at home than ever before, less interaction with people only when they have to, and yet more connected to people. So what is their world? Their world is, look at what my friends are doing, and everybody's posting moments, trying to make something of it that they're not. And so the average 16-year-old is constantly in front of like a device of FOMO. Like, oh, look, they're having a party. I wasn't invited. Look at them. Look, they look beautiful. I wish I had that. Oh, look at where they were at. They got to take a trip. I didn't. It's this envy. It's this FOMO. It's this isolation. It's this, I want that. I don't have it. And if you grew up in a world like that, where you're constantly looking out a window and everything looks cooler, wouldn't you feel alone? Wouldn't you feel like your life isn't as meaningful? Wouldn't you start to struggle with things like depression, anxiety, your worth, and all that kind of stuff? Because at the end of the day, we are made to want identity, purpose, and belonging. For someone to step into our world and say, I see you, and and you're wonderfully and beautifully made, and there's a purpose to it. Let's discover that together. So I'm just, I look at that, and, here comes an opportunity to maybe capture your moments and tell your story in a different way. I'm just wondering how much you envision the next generation using this, or how you help people tell us a better story, a more authentic story,
Yeah, I mean, Joe, you should come work for us. That's all summed up really beautifully. And it's a sad reality in a way. I mean, I can go multiple routes on this, right? I mean, we could speak about the internet in all its phases and what's coming next. We can speak rightly so about, as you so eloquently put it now, what social media does when it feels so ethereal, when it's so shallow. And, there's heaps of data out there about the actual health that's attached to social media. And, we can give honor where honor's due, even when something's dishonorable, because we can respond to people or a company in a way based on who I am, not based on what they do, right? So I can honor Facebook as a company going, they pioneered the way, and we wouldn't be looking at this sort of tech if it weren't for them. However, I can also go, that was a great first iteration of public space on the internet and Web 2.0, but we haven't gone further. Mm-hmm. And isn't it time to go further? Mm-hmm. Isn't it time to create something new that recaptures the meaning of digital content? Mm-hmm. That's what we're after worldwide, is to recapture the intent behind digital content. Mm-hmm. So we're not taking 30 pictures to post the one perfect one to show our perfect lives. So somebody gives us a like and we get a little dopamine hit. Mm-hmm. What is that? Is that how low we've fallen as human creatures? Mm-hmm. That's what we want? Mm-hmm. That's how we're wired? No, we want to create content that remembers the moment, remembers who we were with, remembers why it was special, right? And so we're really driving towards first-person content. And so when you speak about people not knowing how to tell their story, you're exactly right. We've included that into the app. Obviously, from my years of interviewing and doing these things, I recognize that people don't know how to tell stories, or maybe a bit shy or something like that. And we've done a few things to fix that. One is we have a coach storytelling aspect on the app. So we're going to help people learn how to tell fuller stories.
Love that. Yeah.
The other is that we have digital time capsules. You can create as many as you like, and in each one you can put audio, video, and picture. So if you don't want to do video, that's fine. But a picture can be first person too. You can take a picture of something, and the tag that you put on that can actually draw you back into that memory. So one of our beta users put a Capsll picture up of him and his wife on horses in the snow. And all he wrote was, "My hands were so cold." Like, I understand that. I remember when I was in Switzerland skiing and my hands are so cold. And now I'm like, I should really capture that story, But it's meaningful to me. Him on a small level, mine on a greater level, but in first person. Now you can go all the way to video recording your life story and leaving it generationally so that people to come actually know you for who you are and not for how it's been told to them as third person. You think about everything from the struggles in someone's life recorded to pass on lessons to just having grandma's recipes down the line, right? These things are getting lost. And so with that, we're losing the value of our generation. We are so nostalgic, our generation in particular, and yet we're not leaving enough nostalgia for the next generation. So our target market is not necessarily the TikTok generation. We're actually looking at sort of 25, 30 and up, because those are people that have really lived, have stories, and understand the value of that. Now, we're not discounting. We run the same age restriction as other social media, like 13 and up. And we've got actually a 16-year-old girl who is crushing at the moment. And all she's doing is, this is my life at 16. And it's her and her friends in the car and, this and that and all these things. And it's inspiring to see that. They might very well start leaving us behind in leaving history.
Yeah, I love this on so many different levels. I think, one, like, how cool would it be? I've got 3 teens myself, but if I was using an app like this as a teenager, to go to my son and say, "Hey, man, you're not alone," and to pull up an archive of me talking candidly about something when I was 16, I was in your spot, man. You can't, and listen to this. I think that's cool. I also think just the voice app alone, like, how many times do we have our best epiphanies? We're in the car alone, or we're somewhere alone, and it's just like that aha moment comes to us, and then we end up losing it because we don't write it down. We don't do anything with it, but to pull up something and say, like, I'm thinking about this right now, and I don't want to forget it.
100%, man.
Like, dude.
100%. And then that capsule, each one. So the other sides of this is we have no ads, no targeted user data tracking. You completely own your data. Now, these things all sound fine and ethereal, and they're all click words going around at the moment. But think about this. If you upload a picture to social media platforms, they own it.
Yeah.
And if your family wants to get that when you pass away, they need a court order to do that.
Wow.
Think about that.
Wow.
Also think about how you post to social media. It's scattered across probably multiple platforms, hard to collate, impossible to pass on. That's what we're solving here, right? But further, each capsule you can share, you can keep to yourself completely private. You can share it publicly if you think it'll inspire other people. But most importantly, you can share it with only the people that you want to see that particular one. Private sharing. So you have full control of it. So whatever that idea is, yes, you can choose how you want to share that. Now, I hit record when my wife and I were sitting on the couch having a conversation. We're actually speaking about, we saw something on TV and we were speaking about how they justified that decision to themselves. And we're like, we don't justify decisions to ourselves. Then had an hour conversation of all the things that we justify to ourselves that are okay to do. And then only realized at the end of the conversation. Now that conversation, look, don't record your wife without her knowing.
Yeah, I'm about to say.
You should, but you have to be in a healthy relationship.
No, this is exactly where Zach's mind's going right now. I need you to know that.
To win arguments.
Like, got her. Oh, you didn't say that last Tuesday. Capsule app.
Check the capsule.
Yes. Okay, wait, let me make a note. We need to actually make that happen for us. But that went into a capsule just between her and I. And when we die one day, that capsule's not going anywhere. It'll die with us. It's just between us, And then I have ones between friends. I have ones between, family, and I'll have ones that I'm already creating for my to-be kids one day. So yeah, I mean, we know people are going to use it way beyond what we've imagined, but this is the core of what we're creating.
This is exciting stuff. So listen, you put a lot of thought into this. Obviously, there's nothing like this out there right now. Probably only a matter of time before Apple or Google or someone comes knocking on the door to say we want this. I want to, before we end this, I want to just throw out a curveball, something fun. We do this we're going to do this every episode this season. And that is, we're going to talk about a leadership pet peeve.
Oh,
okay.
Okay.
All right.
As long as it's a curveball, not a knuckleball, man.
No,
I played
no.
baseball for 27 years, so I know what's happening here.
Yeah, and I think this 100% ties into stories. And so I'm going to share mine.
Okay.
And you give me your thoughts. My leadership pet peeve is when a leader starts to go into monologue mode and they start talking about something for 10, 20, 30 minutes that they could have summed up in 60 seconds. And I thought about that because I saw Jordan Peterson live, and I'm like, I don't know what this guy said for the last hour and a half, but he summed it up as be kind to others. And I walked away thinking, man, Jordan is smart as hell, but like I paid money for an hour and a half. Like, what did I get? A monologue. And I'm like, so whether it's a meeting, whether it's whatever, man, when leaders go into those monologues and they just, maybe it's just the way I'm wired. I'm like, man, just tell me. Get to the chase.
You paid by the hour, mate.
Right?
you got a full hour.
Yeah. That's it. With Jordan, you wanted to be there. Like, you paid money to be there. There were no slides or anything. There was no agenda. He just riffed for an hour and a half.
Yeah. Love you, Jordan. You're brilliant. Sponsor the podcast. But, dude.
Yeah. Come on. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
But usually you don't opt into those conversations. They just kind of happen.
Yeah.
So I wish I could tell him just, hey, go record a capsule. Just keep it 1-to-1. We'll talk later. Give
March
me the
21st, you can tell them.
March 21st.
Redirect them.
Love it. Okay. So apparently I'm the only one that shares that pet.
No,
peeve,
you.
It's good. It's good. It's good. All good. All
Yeah.
good. I'm probably the one who does it. Maybe.
No.
Is that what it is?
Huh?
Is that why you're silent over here, Zach? Yeah.
No,
Okay.
never.
Or whatever. So Capsll app, it's download it in the app stores, right?
Yeah.
That's and see how we're spelling this.
Yeah,
C-A-P,
full send. So
Yeah.
CAPSLL.
double L.
Any founder knows that it's really hard to find a name that's not taken, but we kind of like it. We love the brand and love how it's panned out. So CAPSLL. The website is capsules.app, and you can join the wait list, or once we're live, time of recording, you can join the wait list, but once we're live, it'll be in the App Store. But you can go on their website anywhere, and you'll see what this is all about and what we're doing and stuff. And connect with us. For the time being, we're still on Instagram because that's where people are, and so we are where people are. We are on the other blue one at the moment still as well, even though many people are leaving that. But serving the purpose for the time being. Okay. But we promise not to put you in a room and talk at you for an hour.
Yeah.
And we'll give you your money's worth.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Appreciate it very much. Well. Ladies and gentlemen, like if you're in a spot right now where you're fighting for clarity on who it is that you're trying to become, what you're trying to do, we encourage you to visit purposepro.org, sign up for a one-on-one workshop. We would love to start walking you through your unique design and purpose, and really show you that you do have a story worth telling. And that's exactly why you're going to be hearing Clint's name a lot more in the future. So, man, Clint, thank you very much, dude.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. And I'll just say, every listener, every viewer, just don't second guess it. Your life is valuable. Your story is valuable. This is not about business. It's not about you even being on the Capsll app in particular. Find a way to record your story that works for you. Send it on generationally. It's worth more than you know.
That's it right there.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you